there is a Q&A section, there is a chat section. You can always leave your comments there and we can pick from there. Just a brief overview of the program today. Ms. Joan, can you move to the next slide? The next slide. The one with the program for this event. So each speaker is going to be given 15 minutes of talk. And between the presentations, we are going to have 5 minutes of small dialogue. If you have any question or you have a comment to address specific to what has just been presented, you can put your questions or your comments there. So after the end of all the presentations of 4 speakers, we shall have a dialogue, a general dialogue for the Q&A. So you can just raise your hand on you can just click the raise hand icon on the screen, and then we can call your name and unmute yourself. So before I welcome the first speaker, I would like to invite the facilitator for this event, Ms. Joan Onyango. She's going to walk us through what we should expect for today and if there's anything prepared for the consecutive events. Ms. Joan, you're welcome. The space is yours. And also, I would like to, due to time, I would like you to present the first speaker.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Good morning and good afternoon, wherever you're joining us from. So, as you've heard, I'm Joan Onyango, and I'm part of the team organizing this event. This event is under ASKU's welfare department, where we have education, culture, and other activities. So education being our main core activity, the core reason why we're here in Japan, we see it reasonable to engage in talks that will help us improve or maintain a balance here. That's why ASKU decided in its calendar of events to have 4 quarterly talks that will be there in this year of 2023. So this is the first episode of 2023 series education talks, and we'll have the presenters as per the program. And then in this slide, we have the schedule for the forthcoming talks that we will have, and if a member or someone would be willing to take part in these talks to present and help and contribute towards making these education talks informative and enjoyable, you're welcome to present yourself, show interest, and help us achieve the objectives for this year. So that's all I would want to say for now, and I would like to welcome our first speaker, Dr. Coulibaly, to take over. So I'll stop my slideshow for now. And just a minute, I'll make you the presenter so that you can continue.
Okay.
Coolly. Yeah, you should be able to
Yes,
share.
so I think it's possible.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. So my name is Thierry Coulibaly, and I will be trying to present you something about academic life in Japan. And yeah, very glad to have been called for this talk, and I will try to be as informative as I can. So I've been in Japan for 7 years, and I think did my master and PhD at Kyushu University, and now I'm postdoc / assistant professor here. So I hope you can, see my example as something you can apply to your time in Japan. So of course, I don't have a magical, recipe for graduating and having the best life in Japan, but I have a small recipe that work in my case, and I hope that can help you also go through. So I have 3 key ingredients. It's like ensuring your professor meets what you want to do in Japan. Second, you need to really collaborate during your research, like with other people, and plan your work really by yourself. And I will try to further detail that, but really have a good plan for your work when you're in Japan. So first, ingredients. So it's like here I try to show a diagram that show the level kind of requirements you have in your department, or when you come in Japan. It's like you need to graduate, of course, and for master students it's like within 2 years, and PhD generally within 3 years. And the department will require you to fulfill some kind of some requirements. Let's say they will ask you to publish 1 research paper, or they will ask you to publish 3 research papers. That really depends on your department, and it's really different based on where you are. But generally, the level of requirement for graduation in department is lower than that in lab. So this is why I put like the smaller the circle here, the lower the level of requirement for graduation. So the department is like the lowest level. Then you have the lab level. So when you go in your lab, you will have maybe a talk with your professor, and he will ask you, or he will tell you what is required in the lab. So in my case, I'm in the civil engineering department, and I'm in the Managi lab. Managi is like the name of my professor. We are mostly doing things related to urban engineering and urban economics. So the department asks us for the PhD, for instance, to publish 1 paper to be able to graduate and have your PhD. But in my lab, you need to publish actually 2 papers, and you need these 2 papers cannot be literature reviews, and they should also be published in the top 25% in the field of the study. So that's what the professor asked us. And generally, I have not been in other labs, but I've heard some from other people. It's like they have also this kind of requirements. When you go in the lab, the professor expects you to do something based on his expectations, and then you have to fulfill it in order to graduate. And then sometimes you have another level of requirement, that is the professor himself. He may see in you a lot of potential and ask you to do more than publish 1 or 2 papers. He can ask you to publish 5 papers. That's a one-to-one relationship with your professor. And of course, this diagram does not mean that it's like this in all kind of laboratory, in all departments, but I think that's common in many departments. But however, because we have this kind of structure, like the kind of general requirements in the lab are generally higher than the general kind of requirement in the department, sometimes the professor do not have all the information, and he can put you into trouble. So, professors are very busy. Like in Japan, they have like several, students to take care of, and they have other projects in other universities and this and that. So sometimes they can have wrong information or outdated information. And sometimes if they don't really care about you, they can even prevent you from graduating because you are not doing what they want you to do, and you keep, bringing other stuff that he has no interest in. And that's actually, it didn't happen for me, but it happened for other people. It's like the professor asked them to write the thesis, and then he also asked them like to publish later in their time during their PhD. However, the department in what actually I think education department, they ask the person to publish 4 journals, to publish in 4 journals. But the professor didn't know that. He was like applying his own requirement and asked the person to, first write the draft of his thesis before being able to write any draft for any publication. And, my friend was in trouble because of this kind of wrong information or outdated information. Of course, this is not the case every time, but it's important to keep in mind that this can happen. So I think what is important to do in this kind of circumstances is like to be very respectful and close to the administrative workers in the lab or on the department. I think I would have not been able to go smoothly like this during my master and PhD if I didn't have Oiwa-san. I guess everybody in the engineering department will know her. Very kind and is a great person to have on your side. And in all departments, you have these kind of secretaries also. I think in my personal experience, I think these are like the 3rd or 2nd most important people in the department or the lab, because they have all the information of the schedule of the professor, all his current project, and then are responsible for joining kind of the department, information with the lab information. So when you have these kind of people on your side, you can really, disregard all the issue about administrative things, and you can just focus on your research, and that's really important. So second also is, I think is really a key to be close to Japanese students in your lab, because they have information, they are more used to their, to their systems, and it will be easy for you to just have a small talk with them and and go through your analysis without really care about, new rules that came out and only the news is only written in Japanese and you have no idea what it means and this kind of stuff. And finally, it's important also to have an open and frank discussion with your professor to ensure your objective aligns. So if you find out, because thanks to other students or the laboratory, that there is a new information and you want to engage into a new objective, it's important to talk with your professor to make sure he knows that you are going there, because sometimes it may clash, and this clash may be sometimes very nasty. Like there are some people some African actually students, I know 2 cases, they needed to change their professor because their objective were not aligning anymore, and they didn't find any, good, how to say, way to handle the situation. So they had just to leave the lab. Of course, it's not like every time when you have a problem with your professor, you need to change lab and etc. But it's important to be frank with him, talk with him, and go together with him in order to reach your goals. So second ingredient for my recipe for graduating smoothly is like collaborating in your research. So hard work and resilience can trump everything. And I think the African students that come actually at Kyushu University so far, most of them are actually very brilliant and they really know the value of work. And I talk with them, sometimes saw their work and etc. And you can really see that. But what I see also very often, and we talk with some other Africans, is that we don't collaborate very much when we come in Japan, because I guess because of the language, it's difficult to collaborate with people in your lab, and also we come with different, field of study. That's, of course, if you are not in the Earth Resources, engineering department where all Africans are there, you can collaborate easily. But other Africans that are not in the Earth Resources department, engineering department, are suffering a bit. So here I will try to show, I'm showing a small diagram of how we can carry out a research. Let's say, first you need to understand the literature. Second, you need to master, the research tools for your analysis. Then third, you need to perform your analysis, and then you can write your manuscript. And you can do that again and again and really work hard to do all these steps. But if you collaborate very well with people, you can actually skip at least 1, 2, or even 3 steps of these, diagram. So if I can take an example here again, I was I'm working right now actually for a company and they want to show something and they were asking us to, go with the literature, show how we can perform analysis and collect data and so on and so forth. So what I did is that I was reading the literature and then I found out that there is one group of, researcher in the US that pretty much have done what the company wanted to see. And I contacted the group of researchers in the US, writing them an email, asking them for the data and the way they collect it and etc. And they, gave me everything without, further, requests. And it was really great because I didn't have to do everything again. And I took their results, came back to show that to the company in Japan here. I mean, the company is asking me to do something via my lab. And the company was applauding me based on the results I brought to them. I was happy to get the congratulations, but yeah, I didn't do much, and that's thanks to collaboration. So the advice I would like to give here is like when you find yourself overthinking, it's really important to ask for help. And the help can be with your friends that are not in your lab, African students. I cannot recall the number of times I asked for help to African students here. It's like when I came in Japan, actually, I had to take the entrance exam for the master in engineering, and I had never studied engineering before, and I was actually studying management. And I remember I saw Dr. Ekene, Professor Ekene now, and I told him my concern, and he said, "Don't worry." He went into, his kind of archives. He, pull out all topics, all entrance exam kind of examples. He solved the problem for me, gave that to me so that I can really, learn from how he solved it and etc. And this is how I got into my master in Kyushu University. And just by sharing my concern, what I had in my mind, and people are very much willing to help. So you can ask for friends, you can ask to friends, you can ask to lab mates, researcher worldwide, send emails, or you can ask your professors. It's not mandatory to keep, yourself thinking and find the solution by yourself. That's not, a must. And then finally, it's important to plan your work. So in Japan, one problem is that I think it's kind of a little bit different from other developed countries, is that you come in your lab, you do your research and etc. at a daily basis, and then there will be some seminars, let's say once a week, or maybe once a month, or maybe 2 times per year. It really depends on the labs. And when you do your research, your analysis, and so on and so forth, you go on to the seminar, you present it in front of people in your lab. They will criticize your work or even give you some suggestion, and you go back to do it by yourself. Professor will not come over your shoulder and be like, you need to change this part of here and this part of there. That's not really the way they teach. And it's really important that for you at least to know that you need to self-supervise yourself in order to reach your goal. So in that sense, it's important to find resources in the university that can help you achieve your goal. So on the website of the university, the Moodle and etc., there are several classes that are sometimes hidden especially for foreign students, because we don't speak Japanese, but that can really help us, learn what we want to do and the goals that we came here in Japan to achieve. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay, sorry. I heard someone.
The only problem is that I can't see your slide. I don't know if it's just for me or for everybody.
You say it?
I was saying that the only problem is that I can't see your slide. It's just for me or for everybody.
You cannot see my slide.
Actually, I can see yours. I don't. Maybe you can share it again.
Oh, really? Oh, I'm so sorry about that. Do something like that. presenting.
Now we can.
Now we can?
Yes.
Oh,
I don't
I'm
know
sorry.
about the
I hope
previous
the whole time you could see a
responder.
little bit.
I think it's just his phone. About
I think
the
it's
slide.
I can't see it. I'll try to solve it.
So I was saying that, yeah, you need to self-supervise and really find resources that can help you achieve your goals when you come in Japan. That's mean classes in the Moodle website, or you can really talk with other talk with other people and get in touch with researchers in and outside your lab. Oh, what is happening over there? So if I can recollect an example of a good friend of mine from Kenya, he was saying that the most thing he learned actually being in Japan was not from his lab, of any person from his lab. It was someone from another lab that he met through an African friend. So it's really important to talk with people outside your lab and find where you can find resources that can help you achieve what you want to do in Japan. And because at the daily basis you will be on your own in the laboratory, nobody will come to really check on you. Most times there are some labs where you have to come at 8 and leave at 9 p.m. It really depends. But most labs, they will not really check on you as if they were your parents. So you really need to schedule your work on your own. Like take a calendar, write what you have to do today, and then stick to it and make sure you follow what you want to do. So yeah, that's it for my talk, and I wanted to end with a quote from Philip Guo that he's a researcher in San Diego University. He was saying success in academia is not necessarily a function of how smart you are, but how good you are at playing the game. And it's really important for us, at least African and international students, to really do not overthink too much and get the help from each other and to be able to advance. Yeah, that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Koiba.
Yeah.
It was a very insightful presentation. I've been here for 3 years, and I think every second of the presentation is a new thing to me. Thank you so much. It was a very fantastic presentation. So we are going to go over and invite any kind of engagement. If you have comments, you have questions, clarification, you can just unmute yourself and ask.
Can we do something? Oh.
Okay, I see there's a.
Yes. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You're welcome.
Okay. Well, firstly, thank you very much for that very beautiful presentation. Yeah, I've also been in Japan for a while now, but a lot of the things how you phrased them, have really put things into perspective for me. I just have a question on collaboration. From your experience, what's the best way of going about with collaboration? Because from my experience, when reaching out to professors or other academics from across the world, they usually ask me what kind of collaboration am I looking for? Do I want them to be like co-supervision, or are they just mentors or informal? So it's always such a difficult question for me to answer. For maybe to hear from you, what do you think is the best way to approach such?
Yeah, that's a great question, I think. So I cannot really answer to that directly because I never faced such a case, but I will go with several examples to show you that it's not a big deal. So me, for instance, every time when I reach out to researchers around the world, I just say that it was for a specific project. I name the project and I name the expected results. and then they give me what they are willing to give me, you know. But there is another student. He was starting his PhD. He was from Ethiopia. I will not share his name. His professor told him that he needed funding in order to do his PhD. He said, okay, that was the beginning, maybe within the first 6 months for him in Japan. He reached out to many institutions around the world. And then like that, he got the funding for PhD. Until a certain day, the secretary came to him and said, she never saw any students in this department that have as much money as you. And the way he looked for the funding and etc. was on his own. He just sent messages here and there, emails, and someone replied. They were enthusiastic about the project that he put together, and you know, just worked. So, as I say, I cannot really answer the question to say that this is what you have to tell them and etc. But you just put yourself outside, and you hope that someone is willing to, you know, go with you. If they can't, if they don't want, then so be it. But at least you try, and that's the most important.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Coulibaly and Mr. Balut for making that question. So due to time, we are going to ask the next presenter to come in. Dr. Bene, you are welcome. The space is yours.
So Joanna, I'm not sure how I can, you know, make him presenter, or should I do anything about that? No.
No problem. He's already a presenter.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Give me a second. I'm trying to bring my presentation here.
No problem. No problem.
Maybe while we wait, we could. I think there are some questions on the chat platform. There's some questions or comments on chat.
Yeah, I see one here. There's a certain gentleman, Mr. Nyathe John. He's asking, especially for those who are going to present even after the first presenter, to share the slides. I think if they can share it on the WhatsApp group, that could be easy, or they can even share it on the chat section. I see people keep on coming in.
Give me to share?
Yes, please. Do you have access to share?
I have now. Okay, let me see. Okay. Can you see my presentation?
Oh, Mr. Duncan.
Oh, yes. How are you?
I'm fine. You're welcome. We are waiting for Dr. Bennett to start his presentation.
Okay.
Can you see my presentation?
Yes, we see it.
Okay.
So, Mr. Duncan, can you mute yourself at the moment?
Okay. I'll mute myself at the moment.
Yes, we appreciate it.
Okay.
Dr. Bennett, you're welcome.
All right. Thank you very much. I hope you're all doing great. And I want to thank the ASKU committee for this invitation, which shows that they still remember me. And also, it's also very cool to review some old friends here. So my name is David Bene. I'm an economic geologist who was actually graduated last year from the Earth Resource Engineering Department at Kyushu University. And currently I lead the Resource Development Division of a private mining company in Mozambique. We are working on local and regional exploration projects targeting gold deposits in Greenstone Belt. So if by any chance you are interested in these things, please holler me, because I won't be talking about these issues today. I'm a published writer and also a cultural activist. And the first presenter was talking about the academic life. And while I will be talking more about some extra curricular activities, if you say so. But before I start this presentation, I would like to apologize if some of you are actually expecting to find in this presentation the following: 5 steps or 5 ways of having a wholesome life in Japan. Unfortunately, I'm not a preacher, a professor, or a motivational speaker. So I don't read actually motivational books. I honestly don't see any funny in doing that. So today I will try to understand with you guys how the Japanese space or environment uplifted the writer inside me. So I decided to call this, to subcall this presentation as the eternal return, just like the gospel. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna share my experience, and I hope that one of you guys will pick some points that you might think that are important and might be useful in your stay in Japan. So well, I'm a son of a Zimbabwean mother and a father with Malawian origin, and I was born in the central part of Mozambique, which is we call them the highlands of Panica, mostly because of these beautiful mountains here. And as you can see, this is a kind of an interesting cocktail, which has a strong influence in my way of thinking and also of writing, although my mother's roots are very, very, very much powerful in me. I mean, for expected reason, right? And because of these mixtures of cultures, I grew up listening to the greatest musician in the Southern Africa. I'm talking about, some of you might know them, Oliver Mtukudzi, Hugh Masekela, the greatest, Lucky Dube. I mean, you name it, you name them. And I think the idea of being a writer, a thinker, in the future actually comes from this relation with music, because there were some points that drove me crazy about these musicians or composers. For instance, the sharpness of their metaphors, the delicate way that they use to treat the word, and above all, their common concern for building a better society. I mean, I have to highlight this last point. And at that time, I actually strongly believed that poetry would actually save lives, and also would somehow fight against terrorism, hunger, sexual harassment, etc., etc., etc. But what happened, I mean, this happened when I was young, and then I moved to bigger cities with other friends, and we started being introduced to that kind of, let's just say, in a very reserved way, that modern global society where every young boy or young girl wanted to be or wanted to act or to think as a Westerner, eat like a Westerner, and that also affected my way of thinking, my way of writing actually, and the roots they started disappearing in me, like slow by slow. And I think everything changed in 2017 when I came to Japan. When I went to Japan, I'm no longer there. When I came to Japan, when I went to Japan. So I was doing my master's in economic geology at Akita University in the northern part of Japan. And the first time I got there, I was just shocked. Positively shocked. I was fascinated by the way Japan actually preserves its roots, even though it's one of the most developed countries on earth. And I happen to be the member of the Akita International Haiku Network. Actually, all of these guys here are very much older and poets. And that time I was 23 or 22 years old. And but basically these guys, they do write haiku or tanka, and I think you're very familiar with that, which is a legacy from Basho and Isa and the other previous masters. And my relationship with these guys actually triggered me to ask some of very difficult and philosophical questions to myself. For instance, the famous, who am I? Where did I come here? Where did I come from? And what do I want to be as a person and also as a writer? And these questions, they changed my life completely, because to answer them, I had to go back. I had to go back home. I had to go back home, and probably that's where you find this title, The Eternal Return. I'm still going back home, because this return it happens probably until I die, because I come back home, but I don't shut myself with what is happening surrounding me. So it's a that's why I call it the eternal return. But this return, as I was in Japan, it was based on reading and listening to everything that I could find about my people. And this return actually helped me to find my really and unique voice in poetry. And as a result, I managed to write some good books, let's just say, I believe. And I was awarded in 2021 the Gurasamura Prize, which is an international prize. It actually made me, and I think I'm still the youngest recipient of that prize. I think I was 27 by that time. And the awarded book, actually, it was launched in Portugal this year, and you are welcome to buy it. I think you can buy this book online. So my point here is very simple. Wherever you are walking, allow new ideas and new perspectives, because they can actually lead you to your purpose. Horace Mann, one of probably the most famous American educators, used to say, be ashamed to die before you have won a victory for humanity. And I think this is probably associated with your purpose, right? And taking that example, this prize here, it put my work in the spotlight, and now I basically work with writers from all over the world. I managed to publish this book last year, and this one is coming actually in 2 months, and this is another anthology that brings about 42 poets around the world, including myself, that will be launched next week in Spain. So all of this work, I did it when I was still in Japan and when I was a PhD student at Kyushu University. So my point, as I said, is it's kind of simple. Don't let your talent being overshadowed by school. You know, I mean, some of us will stay. Some of you guys will stay there for 7 years. Others will stay there for about 3 years or 5 years. And 5 years is too much for a dancer, for a musician, for a football player, for a reggae player. But you can actually find a middle term. You can actually balance these areas here and still getting positive output from those. And another, I mean, this is just, it's just me breaking out. So yeah, I wanna. But the interesting part about Japan, especially for my work, is that I was far from home. I was far from the literary scene, like the Lusophone literary scene, and I was not pushed by other guys to think the way they wanted me to think. So I was very, very free in bringing my new ideas and about how I visualized my work. And as a result of that, they say, the critics, they say that my work is totally different from what is being produced in Portugal, in Brazil, wherever. But Japan was the place that helped me to think differently, you see. But still as a PhD student. And there is another point that probably it will be very interesting for discussion here. And I know that there are people from Senegal or from Congo, others from Nigeria, the guys from Malawi and Zimbabwe, they might be there, or others from Kenya. I also understood during my period in Japan that by actually trying to be others, which is very common within Africans, and this is very well constrained by Frantz Fanon. We are ending up losing the connection between us. If you're talking about the literal area, you have in Africa the Lusophone literature, you have the Anglophone literature, you have the Francophone literature, and these literatures, they don't communicate to each other. Not just that, I think this also goes to research. And if we put those strange geographic boundaries, the things becomes more strange to me. It's very easy to find a Nigerian who doesn't know who Dennis Brutus is. It's very easy to see a South African or a Zimbabwean who didn't read or have an idea about who was Chinua Achebe. But yet we are still exchanging goods like food, like tomatoes, and if you go to the southern part of Africa, we are actually wearing the Nigerian clothing. So if we can exchange clothes and goods, why can't we exchange books? And if we go much deeper, the thing becomes more strange to me, because there is this another generational difference or boundary or bridge. You see, the old guys, they don't communicate with the young guys, and vice versa. And not just in literature, it also goes to the research part. And the things that goes on. So because of that, my friend and I, we founded what we call 80-90. I was still in Japan, and I was still studying at that time. 80-90 is just translating to English is 80 and 90. So it's a project that promotes access to our time, draw literature, books, and of course the actors. We're talking about poets, writers, literary critics, publishers, thinkers, and activists, and mostly based on a very altruistic dialogue. And we have been doing that since last year, and we invite different actors, like acclaimed writers to sit down in a very informal environment to discuss about life, about literature, about politics with the young generation. And sometimes we actually ask these very famous or established writers to choose their own writer that we would like to talk to. And for instance, here you see this guy here. His Alva Taroma is one of the brightest minds in terms of poetry in the Lusophone world. And the other guy, man here is Marcelo Pambwana, who is most famous writer in Mozambique. And you can find these interviews. Unfortunately, these interviews are in Portuguese. You can find them on our online platforms. But I think from next month, we are launching a podcast where I will be interviewing some interesting writers from all over the world. I think the first one will be a Zimbabwean writer and professor who is currently living in Germany. So, but the idea here is trying to exchange this experience and also to introduce to our society, to the Mozambique society, and also like vice versa, other options of reading, and I think that's where actually we want to go. Let me just go further, and also they always say if you have an idea in a let's just say same established society or same established market. I mean, if you're a researcher, you want to publish your work. If your work is experimental, I mean, there are some journals that they won't feel okay with that, or they might think that won't sell, or I mean, they won't publish your work. But the safest way of doing that is actually having the capability and also the right of controlling your own way of thinking, your own way of seeing the things. And if you look at the editorial, whatever, I don't know the word in English here. In Africa, it's very complicated. And if you're working on experimental work, it's very difficult to publish. So because of that, we are very interested in publishing our own work in our own thinking, in our own time. We actually come out with a branch of this project as a publishing house. And we managed to publish this book last year. And this year, we will publish this one under our name. I think it will come in May. But these things, they came as a result, as a product of me being in Japan, and also of me recognizing the idea of looking, of thinking deeply on my people, myself, and my tradition. And if I was able to do that, I was able to come out with something that would be different from what is being done in our world here. So I don't know if you get anything from there. I don't know if you can take something from there, but please don't let your talents, your purpose being overshadowed by these 7 years of hard work at lab. But if your purpose or your talent is actually related to the lab, so keep it up, keep it up, keep it up. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bene, the true son of Africa. It was a very fantastic presentation, but due to time, we are not going to have a private or say time for the Q&A for this part, but we're going to leave it to the Q&A session at the end of every presentation. So I'm going to ask you to hold on to still be in this space. Do not leave, because you may have some comments or questions or something to add on in the later sessions. So I'm going to go over and invite the third presenter, Miss Jacinta. You are welcome. Are you set? Miss Jacinta, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Let me just try to share my screen.
Yes, please do that.
Can you see the screen?
Yes,
we can. The slides?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I hope you're all well. I'm Jacinta from Uganda, and I was at Kyushu University a few years ago. So I was tasked to address the difficulties people face that hamper their academic performance and how to tackle them. So like many of you, when you get your scholarship admission, your university admission, you're pretty excited. You do not read the fine lines. You do not read the terms and conditions or the requirements. You're so busy preparing yourself to come to Japan, you don't read any of that. And that was the case for me. So one of the first shockers I found when I came to Japan that could hamper anyone's performance is the Japanese educational system, which is quite different from many African education systems. I think the first presenter hinted on this. We have an authoritative kind of way of teaching in Africa, where the professor drums everything into your head and the professor is king and his word is law. When you come to Japan, they facilitate your learning. They are building your critical thinking skills. They want you to research and change, basically innovate and change the world. So they let you think. So what I would advise anyone who finds themselves in such a situation is to adapt to the Japanese teaching style as fast as possible. You have to adjust. I know that my professor is not going to sit there and ask me, did you do this? Did you do that? Or is this right? Is this wrong? They need you to use your brain and be able to guide yourself and move yourself from point A to B. They are only a facilitator. Then utilize the research period effectively to adapt to your surroundings and also to the teaching style that you're getting into. Use it properly. Try to understand your professor, his do's, his wants, how he expects you to work. And yeah, that would help you with this particular obstacle. So like I mentioned in the previous slide, because their teaching style is facilitative in nature, it requires communication to be effective. However, you also find that you find a problem of language.
Mr. Jacinta, yes? Sorry to cut you short. Your slides are not moving. I think you're meant to move between the slides.
I am moving my slides actually.
Okay, it doesn't. Yeah, yes, it doesn't appear on the screen. I think maybe you need to put it on the sharing mode, slide mode. Right at
It's
the
actually,
bottom left,
it
bottom
shows
left.
Tim is sharing a window.
Yeah, the sharing is okay, but I think the slides are not moving because they are not in the mode of moving between slides. So if you can put it in the slide mode, I think that could work.
Can you see the slides now?
Yes, we see the slides, but the
Uh-huh.
mode of sharing. Can you go over to the tab slide show? On the top, there is a tab after animations. After animation, there is a tab slideshow. Yes.
From the beginning?
Yes. Can you move to the beginning and then you can go over to the slide that you are presenting?
Are they moving?
Can you click from the beginning?
I did that.
Oh, really?
For sure. Yeah. Is everyone experiencing the same problem?
Yes.
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 I think maybe it's just change the mode of sharing on the screen, not on the Teams.
Sorry.
Just share it again. No problem.
Is that visible?
I think it's coming up. Yeah, it's visible. So can you put it in the slide mode? I mean the whole screen, the whole slide, cover the whole screen. Okay, slideshow. Can you go to
from the beginning? Are you seeing the transition?
Yes. Okay, can you
I'm going to say from the beginning, and this is where I am. Can you see this slide?
Yeah, I think it's the same as before. So I think I'm going to ask you, can you click on the left panel, the slide numbers? If there is a particular slide that you want to talk about, you can just click on that number. I think that can work.
Are they moving? Can you see the slides?
I only see the first one. Can you click slide number 2 if that can work?
No.
No.
Because it's actually.
Okay, now it's moving. I think we can proceed with this approach.
So I don't put it in full slide mode. Then
if you can, yes, it doesn't appear in the full slide mode. But this one can work as well. If what you're doing.
Let's just work with this. Apologies, I don't know what the problem could be.
No problem.
Like I was saying, because of their style of teaching, you require effective communication, but you find yourself that there's a bit of language barrier. I'll talk from my side and from the lab I was in. You will note that professors in Japan are very good at written English and less fluent at spoken English. So try as much as you can to write so they can read. They have time to internalize. If you try to speak, most times they're trying to understand what you're saying and you lose them somewhere. So because of this language barrier, I would encourage anyone to present as much as possible in laboratory seminars. In my lab, you'd give them the presentation in hard copy and also present. It gives them time to read and understand what exactly you're saying. And there is also a strategy you can employ, which is to attend international conferences, even if they're online, and write the papers. This will allow your work to be critiqued by the international community. You may not get as much feedback as you want from your professor because of language barrier, cultural differences, but if you put your work outside there, it will be critiqued and you'll be able to refine your research findings such that they can stand criticism and they are good at the end of the day. Because what happens is sometimes you do not get enough feedback from your professor and some of your findings may actually not hold. I had a scenario where one of my findings did not hold and I found out by asking a professor in Italy to review my work and told me this finding in particular has an issue. Go back and review this and how you analyze that data. And it will go back to their style of teaching. No one ever tells you this is totally wrong, at least in the lab I came from. So you hear, I don't think so. Are you sure? When you hear these statements, go back and look at your work, look at your data processing, your analysis and interpretation. There's also an issue of non-uniform or standardized culture across the laboratories. The laboratories are each like independent universities. So you cannot easily borrow what is happening in one lab and bring it to your lab. And if sometimes when you do that, you clash with your professor because you're importing a culture from one lab and bringing it to his lab. So the best thing, if you find yourself in such a circumstance, observe what others do. Use your research student period. Observe what others do. And when in doubt, just ask. There is always someone in the lab, a senpai, someone who's been there longer than you, who can guide you and say, you know what, here, do this, here, do not do this. So if you find yourself in these situations, this is what I would advise that you do. So the other difficulty I know most people experience is homesickness. They feel lonely, they're anxious, they're depressed. It's a lot of work. Japanese are not very open, people not very friendly. So you can find yourself lonely, overworked, stressed, and anxious. And remember, you can only produce good work if you're mentally healthy. So you have to ensure that your mind is actually healthy. So if you find yourself in such a situation, first of all, the university has therapy and counseling sessions. If it is that bad, or if you need those services, please go get them. But for your usual day-to-day activities and just for the well-being of your body and mind, I encourage that you build a new support network. Your family is too far. They do not understand what is going on, or they may understand, but they not be able to be of much help to you. So utilize the ASKU community, make friends. They'll be your new support system and they'll help you even in the academic difficulties we are talking about. If there is an issue somewhere, you find that in another lab, they've done that experiment. Someone has done that analysis. Someone has done work that is similar to yours and they may be able to help you. So connect with the people, especially your fellow students. They are going through the same issues and most of them will have a solution to whatever you're going to. So stay active. Personally, I hate the gym. I just don't like the gym. But I will tell you that I had to go to the gym in Japan because after all the study and everything else, I needed something else to do to keep my mind healthy and to keep me fit and also just to cope with the academic stress that comes with just trying to achieve academic excellence. This one is a bit controversial, not wanting to leave. Is it a good or a bad thing? It can be both. But if you decide you don't want to leave, know that from the start, work towards it and balance your time. The trick is behind balancing your time. Don't get overtaken by wanting to stay in that you forget what actually brought you. You fail to get that master's or PhD because you're concentrating on trying to get a job here or trying to do these small jobs here and you forget to get your qualification that brought you to Japan. And it can be, like I said, it can be a bad thing. It can be a good thing. If you're focused, it's a very good thing. You excel. You know that I'm here. These are my targets. This is how hard I need to work. This is what I need to achieve. I need to learn the language. You work with focus. But don't wake up one day in the middle, 4 years later, I'm like, you're staying in Japan. It will mess you up if you did not have it in plan, and it may affect your academic performance. So mine has been a very short presentation, and I want to say one thing. Sorry, this should have been in slide mode. But all in all, I want to tell people that foreign countries are not designed to make you comfortable. That is one thing we should all keep at the back of our minds. They're designed to make their people comfortable. So the best thing you can do in any situation is change your mindset. Give yourself a positive mindset. Impossible? No, it is possible. Give it the time, give it the work, persevere, seek help, and you'll be fine. So thank you very much. That's all from me.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jacinta. This is very insightful. I think I need to screenshot the last quote. Foreign countries are designed not to make you comfortable. In Japan, I think it is the best of doing that. So due to time also, we are not going to have a specific Q&A session for this part. So I'm going to ask you also, Jacinta, to remain on the space until the Q&A session. We may have some comments or questions to address. I would like to welcome the last but not least presenter, Mr. Duncan. Mr. Duncan, are you around? Yes, please, you can share your screen and make your presentation.
Okay. Where should I share my screen?
I think.
Can you see it now?
Yes. You can just minimize the yes, that works.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Fantastic.
Okay, thank you so much. So I hope I will be able to cover up these few things here. And well, my name is Duncan, Duncan Tata. I'm from Kenya, and I graduated from Lismekan University. I did my master's in engineering, that's bioinformatics. And I have been in Japan since 2017 August. It's quite a long time. Well, I'll go through a few things.
Last presenter to come around. If we have any questions or comments for the previous presenters, I think we can just tap into that at this moment. You can just raise your hand and unmute yourself. There's a particular gentleman here. He has asked if we have yet to talk about abuse and harassment from those in positions of power.
Okay.
Okay, sorry. Are you okay, Duncan?
Yeah. Am I back now?
Yes, you're back. Please continue.
Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Let me go here. In case I disappear again, please tell me. Okay. Well, the things necessities. I've mentioned, there are 10 of them: the residence card, health insurance, bank account, tax ID, Wi-Fi, Japanese language proficiency, knowledge of Japanese culture, place to live, and transportation, pass, and the emergency contact. I guess those one I have mentioned before. The things I have learned in Japan is the language, culture, their history, food, and
Mr. Duncan? Okay, I think we may have to proceed at this moment while we're waiting for Duncan to come as well. So, if you have any questions, you can just raise your hand or unmute yourself. Dr. Benny, how are you doing?
So far, so good, man. So far, so good.
Okay, thank you so much. So we are waiting for questions and
can I respond to one of these comments in the chat?
Yes, we appreciate it.
Someone has asked if we've talked about abuse and harassment for those in positions of power. That goes back to cultural differences.
So Jacinta, I think you may continue with what you are saying.
I was talking about this comment in the chat that says abuse and harassment from those in positions of power. And I would like to take it back to cultural differences. What some of us may view as harassment may actually be normal culture in Japan. Because when you see a Japanese professor interact with a Japanese student, it's way different. It's way different than a foreign student, especially maybe let me go to earth resource engineering. It's way different. They are softer. That's the truth. They are softer on us. And for you, when they take that approach, you may be like you're being harassed. But that comes from cultural differences most of the time. We need to accept and know that we are living and operating in a very different culture from the one we came in. So So it's very important that we keep that in mind. And that's, I think, what I can say about that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Is there any other one who would like to add on that?
Maybe as he sorts himself out, I'll give a personal example. I was in class and I was presenting in one of the classes, and a professor started to speak Japanese with the fellow Japanese students, and they burst out laughing. You can imagine how you would feel making a presentation. But if I had blown it out of proportion and really made it as such a big deal, maybe I wouldn't have been able to go through that class or maybe learned anything from that class, because I would have failed to get along with that professor. But eventually, when I talked to one of the Japanese, they're like, no, you were just not wearing your mask the right way. Of course, it was inappropriate of him, but it depends on how you handle a situation and at that particular point. If you look at the smaller picture, you miss the bigger picture. So you need to be cautious of such things, unless it's to a degree that you cannot handle. I suggest that you learn to live within the society that you find yourself in. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much. But as long as it is not a physical abuse, if it comes to physical, I think there are proper channels to follow up on that. So we keep on waiting for Mr. Duncan to start his presentation. So needs clarification, have questions, any type of engagement, you can just put your comments or questions on the chat or Q&A section, or you can unmute yourself and address them.
Hello, hi.
Yes, you're welcome, brother.
Yeah, my name is Ian, and I have a question. First and foremost, I think I'd like to extend my gratitude to the presenters for the very informative session that we've had so far. And of interest, I also want to thank Dr. Bene. I think he's one of the people that has some great influence in my life, since I'm also tending towards being a writer in the future, probably. So my question is, bearing in mind that people like us who've had the opportunity to study abroad, to a large extent, we form, I think, the bulk of the great minds from the continent. So we are the creme de la creme of the continent, and our voices do matter most, and I think we stand a better chance to influence socio-political events and even the business landscape in our motherland. So in his experience, or probably in his opinion, how can we improve that, through the art of writing? For example, we have ASKU as an organization. So how can ASKU maybe encourage people, intellectuals like us, to become writers and, improve things through the art of writing? Thank you.
This question is for me, right?
Yes, Dr. Ben, please, you may address that.
Oh, Jan, it's nice to hear you. Unfortunately, I have some bad news on the new generation of intellectuals that are being that are coming out from Africa. I feel that most of them, I mean, there are some exceptions, of course. They are lacking of the love of their land. I know that many, probably some of them are actually here, and I hope you won't be offended. But what I'm gonna say, your dreams, your big dreams, targeting to go to Australia, America, and Canada, and marry a beautiful boy and beautiful girl, and driving some interesting cars, and helping your mom from your country, and that's all. I think that's a very boring life from my point of view. If we go back to early 50s, early 60s, especially from those countries who have to fight against colonialism, the guys who actually started changing the things are the ones who were sent out, like in Portugal and France, to start. And those guys are just like us. You know, I mean, those guys are just like you guys in Japan studying the other guys who are in Europe or America. And I strongly believe that we have that power to change back home. But the thing is that we just we shifted our way of thinking and what we actually want to achieve in our life, which is, I think we are becoming more selfish. I mean, with those exceptions considered, we are more worried about our own belly and our.
Okay.
Yes, it works now.
Okay. I think I'll go very quickly because.
Mr. Duncan, I think we lost you for a moment. I think if it's an internet thing, we can just turn off your video camera and continue with an audio.
Present without sharing the slide because it's getting problem, I guess.
It's the slide problem, or maybe it's a video. Is it an internet thing?
No. I don't have the internet. I'm you know Quora. I'm using the Quora. Could somebody because when I open with Quora, I have the problem. And could you forward? Do you have this PDF? You forward it to my email. Then I think maybe I need to open it again.
Okay. I think maybe you may just present without the screen. I think we are running out of time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So because I think
sorry for that.
Yeah. One. Okay. Now let me go to when you're living here in Japan. First of all, you need to have friends, and how you make the friends depends on the kind of person you are. So you need to make friends. Japanese friends is not so easy to make. So one thing I would say that I have survived with is go to these. There are so many local seminars which happens around. Some kind of agricultural activities, some kind of sightseeing. Just engage on those kind of things, and your life will be much more better as compared to before. Then another thing is that you should never forget your culture. First of all, it's very, very important to stick together with each other. Just embrace each other's culture. You from Burkina Faso, you from Rwanda, you from Kenya. Just stick together because Japanese always think you are one person. They never think about you from Botswana or wherever. They think of you being as one person. Don't just try to break the borders.
See his sharings or hear his voice. We may have to continue with his presentation on the next episode. Mr. Duncan.
Yes.
We are quite running out of time, and I'm very sorry to say that.
Yeah.
Yes, we are almost 3 minutes to the end. Maybe we can just have a quick response to some of the questions that are to be raised.
Okay.
And sure. If time allows, we may get back to you. We are very sorry for that.
Yeah, no problem.
I think we make preparations for the next episode.
Okay, sure.
And please spare us with that.
Yeah, I spare you with that.
Thank you so much. Dr. Bene, you are responding to one of the questions.
Yes, but I want to be quick on that.
Yes.
He was asking about how art and music and literature can change things. Is that so? If I still remember right, Ian?
Yes.
Yes, I think it can, and that's probably one of the strongest weapon we have. I'm just remembering one of the song from Bob Marley. I think it's from Trench Towns, when he say, "We free our people with music." And if you go to the South Africa, you see during those apartheid time, you see Miriam Makeba, Yuma Sikela, even Bob Blackie Dube, all of them. I mean, some of them are in exile, but their music, their art was resonating through the society, and it had a very big impact in conscientizing the people toward their very big dream, which is a better Africa, I believe.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for responding on that. I would like to welcome Mr. Brian, or if not, it's Dr. Brian Aijuka. Yes, you're welcome.
Yes, it's Brian. I wanted to ask, the question is directed to Jacinta because I'm lucky with, I'm in the same lab she was in. I want to ask because I realized people are able to become teaching assistants in different labs, even though they are under JICA program. However, in our lab, I've noticed that maybe it hasn't currently there is no foreigner who is a teaching assistant. So I'm asking, in your period while you were here, was that the same situation? Because I don't want to fall into the trap of importing from a different lab and I go to my sensei and it causes the friction we were talking about. So it's just a question of how it was while you were here.
Thank you so much, Mr. Blind. That's a very good question. I think it connects to so many of us, some of the labs, and sometimes they are stopping these programs. Ms. Jacinta, if you can respond to that, we appreciate it.
Thank you, Brian, for the question. So during my time, we had a similar arrangement. However, there are requirements for a teaching assistant. And one of them is you should know a bit of Japanese, some good Japanese. So I think that's why we all got knocked off somewhere because of our Japanese. So if you're fluent in Japanese or you have relatively good Japanese, I'm sure Sensei wouldn't have a problem taking you on. But that's where the issue was for most of us. It's for that particular lab. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jacinta.
Thank you.
Okay, is it Brian? Is it okay?
Yes.
Have you? Okay, thank you so much. I would like to welcome Mr. Solomon Selassie. I see your hands have been raised for quite some time. You are welcome to Mr. Solomon Selassie, DJ.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, thank you very much for all the presenters. Especially what Dr. Bennett talked about, I just met an African brother yesterday and we were talking about the same issue, the diminishing love for our motherland, just because of the difficulties we are going through, and currently it's not pretty on the African continent. However, so many of them who get the chance to go out are asked by their brothers back home not to come back. What are you come to do? I even just finished a call with another brother. I'm from Ghana. He says, and I said, oh, when I'm coming back next year, he said, my brother, what are you coming to do? It's very bad here. Don't come back. Most of them are saying it. However, was it easy for these to the presenters? It looks like they all sound successful, reintegrating back into whatever they wanted to do or back at home. I guess they are all back at home and they've integrated. Was it so easy reintegrating themselves with the cultural change? Because spending so much time in Japan will have some kind of cultural impact on you. You pick a few things and getting back home, you find certain things now being strange to you. So was the reintegration very easy? And if it was not, how did you go by any tips or anything?
Mr. Bennett, you are welcome to respond on that.
I thank you, Solomon, for your question. I found the first thing when I came here, I came here and I already had a job. And so it was, I didn't pass that period of anxiety and those kind of things. I knew exactly where I was, what I was going to do here. But the questions from my other guys here in Mozambique would say, why are you here? I mean, I was expecting you to stay there or to fly to Canada and all those kind of things. But for me, it was important coming home because I am a earth resource engineer. Although there are very big challenges in Africa, there are also very big opportunities, like way very big opportunities, and if you have very interesting links in Japan or in Canada and all those countries here, and you come back home and you, because here when you come back home, the question is what kind of problem that you should solve, and that problem must pay you back so that you can live, right? But if you are able to identify these problems and come out with a solution, and if you team out with the guys that you link up when you're abroad, man, you will be laughing, you will be laughing. But the big problem is it's very hard for you to see the problems if you are not aware of them, right? For instance, if I'm doing a research, it's very difficult to come out with some problems in that specific area if I don't read, right? If I don't do my biographical research or those kind of things, and in terms of opportunities, the things actually work similarly. So I didn't find many problems in coming here because I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and I think I'm not sad, but of course I miss the stable environment in Japan. I mean, I don't remember me locking the door when I was leaving my apartment in Japan. Of course, I miss that part, but yeah, home is always home, man.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bennett, for sharing with us with your wisdom, African wisdom. So we are still waiting for, we are running out of time actually. So we're going to invite maybe 2 or 3 last questions or comments to make. So you can just unmute yourself and ask a question, or you can raise your hand and pick you from there. If you cannot speak up, maybe Itsuma Ian Cobb. Please, you're welcome.
Yes, Joram. My question directed to Dr. Bennett, and I think it's maybe it's a challenging question, but how does one know that he or she is a good writer without input from other people? Is it possible to know?
Yes and no at the same time. I think a writer, true writer, he should critique his own work, and the only way that you can critique your own work is that you need to have a very solid background. We won't have a very like an excellent writer who doesn't read. So if you read like read for real, you know exactly what is good literature, what good literature is, and what bad literature is. Although all the literature, I mean, even the bad books, the good books, they actually help you. The bad books basically they help you because you know a way of not writing, like you know that this way is wrong. I can't do this shit because this is just bullshit. So bad books are also good. So if you are a very avid reader, you will be conscious about your writing because you can actually judge your work. You can know exactly this is just bullshit and this is something interesting. So yes, it is possible, but as I said, you need that background. But also the writers, they tend to develop that love with their craft. You know? So some of the times they put some they overestimate their capacities, right? And because of that, it's very important so that you can have somebody who can peer review your work, or something like that, and even somebody who doesn't write. A common reader is also a very nice source for you to judge your work. When I was in Japan, I have a very good friend. I think you know Danielle. She reads, but she's not a writer. But she is a person who can tell that this thing is good, that thing is not good, and she gives you the eyes of the common readers, and you can, based on those people, to judge if you're actually doing great or not. So my third book has some strong influence on the conversation that I normally had with her, because if I could think in an idea and use her as an experiment and see how she reacts towards that idea. And most of the time when she hates the idea, I would say that idea is perfect.
Wow, thank you very much for that insightful answer.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bennett. So I would like to ask everyone to turn on the video. We are trying to have a screenshot. So wherever you are, it doesn't matter the circumstances you are in or what you are wearing at the moment. You can just have something prepared and turn your video on. Please unmask yourself. Thank you so much. See you. Fantastic. It's amazing.
Right on your chair.
So while we're still doing that, I would like to welcome Mr. J to give us a vote of thanks before we wind up. So please, can we keep on turning on our videos? Some are still here to do that.
Can you guys hear me right now?
Yes.
Hi, good evening to everyone. My name is Jay, and I come from Mauritius, and I'm actually the current vice president of ASKU, and my research area is focused on aerospace engineering. So greetings to you all, and thank you for this webinar. On behalf of ASKU, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to our presenters, Dr. Coulibaly, Ms. Jacinta, Dr. Bene, and Mr. Duncan as well, for sharing their experience, advice, and suggestions to all the participants here. And I would like to thank you, Dr. Joram, for being our moderator. And finally, the welfare officer of ASKU, Joanne, for the effort behind the realization of this fantastic webinar on living wholesome life in Japan. I look forward to the next webinar as well. So thanks to all the participants as well for showing your enthusiasm and participation with their amazing questions and topics to touch on. So I'm really impressed. So thank you so much. It was an enriching webinar, and thank you everyone. And I leave the floor to Joanne or the moderator. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much, Mr. J. We appreciate so much for having this. Have you, Joanna, have you taken all the screenshots?
Yeah, I have, but there are 3 people who are not doing us a service, but it's okay. I'm taking a screenshot.
Okay, thank you so much.
I'm just seeing Jacinta, so I'll take again. She was not there before.
Okay.
Just once more. Let me save it first before.
Should we say cheers or something like that?
Guys are bright. There is someone who's not visible, but it's okay. It's okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. So, do you have anyone prepared from the leadership committee, or this is the end of it?
This is the end of it for now.
Oh, thank you so much.
Till the next episode in May or June.
Okay.
Thank
you. Thank you so much, guys, for attending this event and making your contributions. I think we can reach out to all the presenters if we have something to contact them with. And I would also like to ask the presenters to share the slides on the WhatsApp group or any other platform they seem fit. Thank you so much.